Hi! Hello! Haha! So, learning from my last live stream, I believe I can record this locally and then upload it that way. So hopefully it'll be better quality so that pretty stuff instead of the weird resolution I had on the Longest Journey live stream, which, by the way, will be happening again on Tuesday. But today is not Tuesday, so no gaming. At least not online. Thank you for showing up or watching this. I realized halfway through promoting this that New York City Comic Con was this weekend and like half my friends would be gone. So, yay! Smart move on my part. But I told a few people to just leave a comment or send me a tweet if you weren't going to make it. And then we've got some lovely people in the chat. So, yay! Let's get started. Feel free to ask a question in the chat at any time. Pretty much anything is game. Just try to keep it PG-13, as that's sort of what I try to keep my channel at. Obviously, you really don't want to know anything beyond the PG-13 level, I'm pretty sure anyway. So, that actually is probably stretching it. Not even that. Maybe PG. I don't know. But I'm not that interesting. I'm actually quite surprised people are here. I'm very excited about it. I was worried nobody would come. Anyway. So, you lovely people in the chat room, ask away. I'm going to go through some of the comments that were left on both my blog and Twitter. Let's see. Twitter. Okay, so starting with Blurred Words, who asks, why do you forsake the teal hair? So if you followed me late, I started with brown and teal hair. It was like when I started my Geek and Sundry vlogging career. It was I had it for a couple of months, and I guess the best way I can respond to that dude is, in the words of Ramona Flowers, I change my hair every other week and a half. Get used to it. But I mean that very nicely. It's just, it's something that happens. Moving on to the next question. I'm gonna just have this weird transition music happening as I do this because it's so quiet in this apartment. I'm at my friend Em's again. She's actually getting a massage. I crashed here last night. There's this weirdness I've noticed with my apartment right now where, so when I first moved into my apartment, I had like a ton of work on my plate. So literally all I did in my apartment was work for about a month and a half plus. So right now my apartment does not feel very relaxing or home-like because my brain is still thinking that's where I do a bunch of work. So I have a really hard time just chilling out there, so I invade all of my friends' homes. And since she lets me live stream on Tuesdays, I was like, hey, do you mind if while you're, not in your apartment, if I live stream? She's cool with it. She's good. She's a good friend. She's like family. Sorry, questions. How do you decide what becomes a blog post and what becomes a vlog? Honestly, that can it depends on what translates best. I mean, it's kind of how you look at what gets your point across best. If I honestly can make it into a blog post, I will always do that first because it's easier, it's less time consuming, it's sitting down and writing at my computer as opposed to setting up all my lights and I wish I could edit out all my ums. A minimum of about like an hour of recording and then on top of that like 2 to 3 hours of editing. So if I can get it across in just writing, I will do that. And obviously if it's a Geek and Sundry blog, there are certain things it falls under, like we're all about investigating things and learning and delving deeper into geek philosophy and what makes up our geekery and all that jazz. So if it doesn't fit under that, of course it's not going to be a Geek and Sundry vlog, but that's how it goes. I'm going to answer some questions from the chat, because why not? What was high school like for you? Not great. I went to high school in Spokane, Washington, which, if you're not familiar, it's very, very dry, and it's the biggest small town I've ever lived in, because it's got a very small town mindset. But so that was a little weird, because just sort of high school's all about self-discovery and figuring out who you are and what you're going to be, and I've always been a very liberal-minded sort of person, and then suddenly I was in this very, I don't know, conservative, very right-wing Republican area, and it wasn't great. I had a lot of learning experiences from high school, and it definitely formulated who I was, but I would not go back and do it again, ever. I'm trying to figure, this is a weird question. I'm trying to figure out how to answer it, to be honest. I moved to Spokane with my family my freshman year of high school, so I didn't know anybody there. I grew up most of my childhood in a tiny little town called Aberdeen, Washington. If you've read Alice, Appleweed is pretty much based on Aberdeen. It's this tiny logging town. It was a nice place to grow up just because it was fairly safe. I think we had one murder in the 10 years I lived there, and it was this huge deal. But it was, it's very poor now, and it's sad to watch its kind of economy collapse in on itself, because I did spend 10 years of my life there. But going to Spokane, I didn't have any friends there yet, and all of my friends in Aberdeen kind of eventually flaked out on me and stopped writing or calling, because long distance just kind of sucks in general. And I realized very quickly it's hard to find good friends who stay with you, and they all just kind of pittered out within the first few months, and I got really depressed. And then I started to make some friends, and some of them were lasting friendships, some of them were really unhealthy friendships, and it's high school, unfortunately. I mean, I'm not really sure what else to tell you on that. I was more bullied in junior high and grade school. My high school was fairly large, so I was kind of, I don't know, an elder person of my group of friends, if that makes sense. Not like I was older, but like if my friends were a tribe, I was one of the elders of it, of the geekery, I suppose. But I mean, I wouldn't change any of it. I wouldn't do it again, but I wouldn't change any of it. And that's where I'm going to leave that, because I don't know how else to answer that question. Muppet face. Dun, 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 dun. It is one of my hopes that they make a color-changing mood hair dye. That would be awesome. How did you develop such an intense work ethic? Honestly, necessity. So, growing up spending my life in both a tiny town and a tiny mindset town, like Spokane is one of those feelings that if you go back to it after college, you're probably never leaving it, and that was a terrible thought. Like, I just never wanted to do that. And I think it was probably my mom and my dad who taught me that talent itself is fairly common, but tenacity is not. And so it was just a matter of, okay, well, there's like a million things I want to do in this life, and I've always been afraid of being one of those people who, gets to a certain age and is like, oh, I was going to write a book, or oh, I was going to do this, and but blah, blah, blah. That's like my biggest terror, is like being the I was going to do this person. As well as student loans. As I joke about that all the time, but I have a disgusting amount of student loans. I am going to get real with you right now. for like half a second. Thanks to going to the college I went to, I am $120,000 in debt thanks to my student loans. And don't get me wrong, I would not give up that private art school education for the world, but I really wish someone had told just out of high school Kiri what kind of commitment she was making and how much stress that would sort of put on her in future years. Because it became this sort of drive of, well, you have to do this and you have to be successful, because if you don't, this is just going to swallow you and your entire family whole. So that, I guess, is where that work ethic comes from. It's just like, I have to make this work, and I have to create, because I just can't imagine not creating. So I have to therefore be successful at creating, because my family will suffer if I don't. If that makes sense. Other than the Geek and Sundry vlog, what else do you do? Oh, okay, that's a big question. So I write. I write on both my blog and I write. Facebook is making noises apparently. I'm not sure if you can hear that. I write on my blog. I also write books. I released a novel called Alice, the Terra Mirum Chronicles. It's the first in a short series that is loosely adapted from Alice in Wonderland. It's got a lot of those themes running about in it. I act, I direct, I sing. If you check out my personal channel, there's something called Closet Tunes. And on the theme of acting and writing and whatnot, I'm working with a very small company in Portland called Bravado Entertainment to bring one of my other works of writing to life called Funeral Potatoes into a short film that we're hoping to submit to a few, indie film festivals and all that jazz. Writing, acting, singing, directing. And there's my day job where I work in community for a major game company, and that's awesome. As well, like, that's really awesome. You guys, I may be stressed all heck and work a lot, but I have a pretty good life. I've carved that for myself. You would be Lord of the Flies? I'm not sure what you're asking there. But no, I wouldn't. I actually hate that book a lot. My favorite character was Simon, and they killed him off. Spoiler alert. It's a classic. If you haven't read it yet, I apologize if I've spoiled that for you, but it's been around for years. What are your favorite video games? You wrote that on my Tumblr. I remember these series of questions. Hello. My favorite video games, Longest Journey series is definitely up there. Brief plug, if you, I'm doing a live stream about an hour and a half every Tuesday of The Longest Journey up until our Extra Life on November 2nd. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I will post a link when I upload this to my YouTube channel, which, by the way, is Kiri Callaghan on YouTube if for some reason you aren't following my personal channel. But Extra Life is a gaming marathon where we we play games for about 24, I think it's 25 hours actually this year, 25 hours, and to raise money for children's hospitals around the world. And Geek and Sundry has a team together, and we're all pulling together to raise money for this. So if you guys can help out with that, there is no such thing as a minimum donation, and it goes all to kids. Like, Extra Life doesn't get any, we certainly don't get any, all towards the children's hospitals. So it's pretty awesome. Anyway, I was talking about games. So the Longest Journey series, definitely. Dragon Age, I'm a huge sucker for. It's another game I've gotten way too emotionally invested in. Mass Effect. Honestly, any game that can get me super invested in the story is just like... brain. It's gone. It's gone. Any game that can get me invested in the story, I'm sort of on board with. I I love the idea of video games being sort of the closest thing we have right now to replayable theater, because it involves an audience interaction. It's never quite the same every time, and it's just so that's my answer to that. What are your favorite movies? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, hands down, is my favorite love story of all time. It's just art direction in it is amazing and beautiful, and I catch something new with it every time. I love Kate Winslet like crazy, and it's one of the few times where I really enjoy Jim Carrey. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I'm not big on a lot of his humor. And it doesn't wrap things up in a pretty little bow. So like romantic comedies tend to. So amazing movie, and just heartbreaking and beautiful, and just and speaking of Jim Carrey, The Truman Show, also an amazing, beautiful film. Stranger Than Fiction, definitely. And oddly, Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, I really love, which is funny because when I first saw it, I was like, this movie looks so stupid. But I just kind of fell in love with it, and I love Dustin Hoffman, and it's just beautiful. Anyway, how awesome and cute is Amy Dallin in person? Amy Dallin is amazing. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm going to reenact for you what happened at Rose City Comic Con, because I did not have any knowledge that she was going to be in Portland, let alone at that convention. So it was Sunday, it was near the end of the day, and you know, it's Sunday at a con, so you're kind of like all tired and whatever. And so I was just sort of like this at my table, because I'm going, oh my god, just a few more hours until until we got into a car and drove back to Seattle, unfortunately. But I was tired and I was really hungry, and there's never a lot at a convention I can eat, and you would think that I would prepare for this better, but I never seem to. I always end up not eating enough, and it's just upsetting. But I look over at Greg Rucka's table, and I see this girl with shorter hair, and I'm like, that girl looks so familiar. And she turns around a little bit, and we locked eyes, and I was just sort of like, oh my god! And she had the sort of same realization, and we did the girl thing. We were like, ah, oh my god! And we hugged, and she was super sweet and adorable, and I kind of have a tiny crush on her, I'm not gonna lie. Just a little bit. She was a lovely person, and she bought one of my books, and that was very sweet of her, because she actually did not have to do that by any means. I would not have been offended. And so yeah, she's a very lovely person. If you don't watch Amy Dallin's vlog, you should go do that, because just, yeah. How did you come around to acting, directing, writing, and singing, and also indulging in your immense curiosity? Did you wake up one day and were already doing everything before you knew about it, or did you wake up one day and decide to pull a Da Vinci and do all the things that you could think of? That is so sweet. I have never had anyone compare me to Da Vinci. I'm pretty sure I don't deserve that high of praise, but thank you. So there's a lot of factors that go into this, and I hope they'll be semi-interesting. Acting, whoa, what is the sun doing? Ah, it's gonna burn me! It's Seattle, there shouldn't be this much sun. Oh, actually, this Little Mermaid was a huge part in me getting into acting in the first place. I loved this movie. It came out actually, I think, 2 years before I was even born, but it was one of the first movies I remember as a kid. And, you know, like, I was like 2 or 3 or whatever, and I would go around singing the ah, because I couldn't, you know, I didn't know words yet. I couldn't memorize words. But eventually, you know, it got, so probably about the 106th time I had seen it, I might have been 4 or 5. It was before kindergarten, I remember, because my siblings were both at school, and I was at home with my mom at the time. And I was sitting on the couch. Actually, it might have been during kindergarten, because I had morning kindergarten, so my mom picked me up before they got home. That's not important. Anyway, we were watching it again for like the, I don't know, millionth time or something, and I turned to my mother and I said, Mom, I want to be, I might have said a mermaid when I grow up, or a princess. I don't remember. I basically said I wanted to be Ariel when I grew up. And my mother made the very foolish decision to inform me what a voice actor was. That someone actually did grow up to be Ariel, that they got paid and da-da-da. And I guess it had never occurred to me that cartoons required voice actors or anything. They just, cartoons just came to be when you were 4 years old. And it was just this mind-blowing thing about, oh my god, I can grow up to play pretend! And that was the best, so I was a goner from there on out. And I decided to just do that. And then from there, I sort of realized my love of storytelling. And that kind of fed into directing. And you know what, my mom is really to blame for all of it. My mom was a music major. My mom is an amazing singer. She's an amazing woman in general, but she writes and she sings, and I just wanted to be her. Like I wanted to sing, and I wanted to write. She writes mystery novels, and I'm trying to get her to publish some of them, or just put them out there and just like, come on, you just to get it done. It'd be awesome. But so that just inspired all of that. And as for the curiosity part, so my mom is in charge of my mom is responsible for all of the artistic and creating things, and my dad is definitely responsible for that insatiable curiosity, because my father is just such a learning nerd. And I remember road trips included like random trivia and just telling us bizarre facts, reading to us from various things. Like he was just all about learning. To this day, I remember that amino acids are the building blocks of protein, because he told us that we should remember that. It was important. I remember that Everest was the tallest peak, at least at the time. I'm not sure if that's still true. I should go look that up. Not right now, but but just things like that, just random bits. He was always encouraging us to question everything and to find stuff out for ourselves. And I will always be grateful for him for that, because I've always thought for myself because of that, and never just accepted information as it was presented to me. I wanted to find out more for myself, and that sort of just I don't know. That was a weird gesture. My mom is pretty dope. I just spat. How many years young are you? I am 26. No, you haven't. Oh, I haven't. So I have an old book of Shakespeare sonnets. It's like this big. If I was in my apartment, I would show it to you. Actually, I don't know if I've unpacked it yet. Do you have anything else in regards to an old bill collection? I actually don't. And reason being is, as cool as that one book of sonnets is, I am terrified of reading it. Some people say I'm very disrespectful to my books because I write in them, and I love the hell out of my books. Books are meant to be read, in my opinion, and so I will get those dollar copies of various Shakespeare plays, and I will take notes in them and just highlight the hell out of them. I have a book called The Annotated Alice. It started out being a fairly nice book, but unfortunately it's now full of pen markings about research and things that I found for the Alice books. So, yay. Or the Alice book. I guess there will be more, but it's not correct to call them the Alice books, I suppose. What is your favorite band and or bands? I'm more of a by song sort of person, I will confess. But I will say there are a few that do come to mind where I like the majority of their body of work. Owl City, despite the fact that a lot of his stuff sounds the same, I will always love because he just makes me smile. It's like unicorns to my ears. Who is your favorite superhero? I'm really angry at DC, but I think it's still Batman. And the reason being is I am fast. He was like the first Dexter, sort of. I love the idea of a because they're all vigilantes, but I love the idea of a vigilante being almost as unhinged as his villains, and the only thing that separates the two of them is the fact that he refuses to kill people. And I'm like, all right, I can get on board with that crazy. Let's see if I can take more from others. Keep asking and all that jazz and seeing if other things are updated. What is going on? Okay. Dun, dun, dun. What is your favorite cartoon from the 1990s, 1980s, 2000, and 2010s? All separate categories? Oh, geez. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Hey Arnold and Doug. What came out in 2000? Or the 2000s? Was when I was like in high school, so I stopped watching a lot of cartoons, not because I just didn't have time. High school is when I started to get really busy and get really involved in like theater and whatnot, so I was like never home. I think The Oblongs was in the 2000s. I remember finding that pretty funny. In 2010, I really like Adventure Time. It's like totally my spazzy humor right there, and I'm not gonna lie, I also really like Friendship is Magic, My Little Ponies, and I was a little ashamed to admit that at first, but I do. And I like a little bit of what I've seen so far of Phineas and Ferb. So, what are your favorite accents to speak in, and why for each one, if applicable? This is where I offend everyone who's not American. Gosh. Okay. So, when I get really tired, also, other things, I can sometimes get stuck in an English accent, and I think it honestly stems from the fact that just the placement is somehow easier when you're not trying to be super articulate is the wrong word, but like, because it's not like a posh British or anything. It tends to be more of Cockney is not quite right, but it just sort of falls into this like I guess it is kind of Cockney, but it's just it's at the front of the mouth, so that the sound is easier to get out, and it's kind of mushy, so you can kind of tell what I'm saying, and it doesn't even vulgar language in a Scottish or English accent do sound better. I will agree with that. It sounds so polite in English. You're just like, well, he's kind of a fucking asshole, and you're just like, you're right. I completely concur with that. Honestly, a lot of my accents tend to come with a character. They're not just like straight accents. Like the Jewish mother, who her name is Muriel, and she's become a fast favorite of mine, mainly because she gets laughs. I love making people laugh, but especially my dad, because my dad is not a guffaw, if that's to guffaw, like the boisterous, he doesn't but I'll see if I can get into this. It's pressure. Chills and force. But okay.
So you know those Hallmark books that you can record. Well, I got one of those for him for Christmas, and I just recorded in that voice, and I said, Brent, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Why do you never cool? I'm home 24 hours a day, and you never cool. Or whatnot. Anyway, I'm going to move on for that, because I could probably go on for a while with that. Where is somewhere you want to visit that you haven't yet, and why? God, so many places. I really want to visit Bath, England, because Jane Austen. I really want to go to Edinburgh, Scotland. I can't speak today. For their amazing theater festival. I really want to just see any part of France. And you know what? There's actually a list on my blog of just like places I want to go, and it's not even complete. Like Venice and Florence and Rome and Iceland and Athens and Australia just in general and Egypt, and I want to go like pretty much everywhere. Another question from the vlog. If your life could have a theme song, what song would it be and why? That's a hard one. I'm gonna just give one for my life right now. I actually have a bad habit of putting songs to everything, so I actually have a soundtrack for my life. I'm not even kidding you. I have a entire soundtrack on my Spotify called My Life as I Know It, and it's just songs that I've assigned to various points in my life. And right now I'm pretty sure it's probably It's Time by Imagine Dragons. It always makes me smile. It kind of has that sort of like kicking ass through really hard times and just kind of not sacrificing who you are just because stuff around you is changing. And I think that probably would be my theme song as of late. Do 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 do. Brain does not load. Okay, cool. Going back to the chat room. 12:33. Okay, cool. What was one of the scariest things you've ever seen or done? I have this weird policy about if something scares me, I have to go try it. Like as long as it's fairly safe. Like if a ride kind of terrifies me, it's like, well, dude, that thing is designed to be safe. You got to go on that and face that fear. I think Eleanor Roosevelt had that line about do something every day that scares you. So I try to follow that. I'm trying to think of something like the scariest thing though. It's hard because once you get past it, I don't think it stops being really scary once you get past it. So that's kind of hard to think of. Dead air, dead air, dead air. I actually made it really serious pie for a minute. When I went back after for my brother's funeral in February, we were putting some stuff in the basement and fixing things and whatnot, and I found the rest of the rope he'd used. And that was probably the scariest thing I've ever seen. That still bothers me. No, it's okay. I know you didn't mean to make me sad. It's honesty happens and emotions happen. Anyway, moving on. Who are some people you'd like to meet someday? I hope that at some point before, I don't know how long Geek and Sundry Bloggers is going to go on, but I really hope I do get to meet all of them in person, because they all seem like a really great group, and we mesh really well together, and you're just awesome. As well as I really want to meet John and Hank Green, because they're just awesome and fantastic, and their and Felicia's careers I just really admire, and that's kind of what I'm working for with myself. So getting to meet all those fabulous people would be awesome. What is your favorite alcoholic beverage, and what was the most embarrassing moment it caused? It's not my favorite, but actually I don't think I have a favorite, to be honest. I mean, I've got a few I prefer, but I'm not a huge... one time at a wedding, I had a lot of Riesling, and mainly because they kept filling up my wine glass and I didn't notice. And I was one of the bridesmaids, maids of honor, and I gave my speech. I didn't actually realize I was supposed to be giving a speech because there was 3 of us, and I assumed that it was just going to be the main person. But I was apparently going to give a speech, and thankfully I improvised okay. But what ended up coming out was comparing the bride and groom to waffles, in a way that somehow worked, and people I even got on an "aww" conversation. But I remember waking up the next morning and being like, did I give a speech about waffles? So I guess that would be pretty high up there. And then the only time I ever had tequila, I projectile vomited. But that was actually kind of cool, because I managed to projectile vomit right into the toilet without no splash anywhere. So that was sort of like 3 points! Wash mouth, rinse, go to bed. So there you go. What are some of your major goals in life? God, what are some of my major goals in life? No. One of my big ones was honestly to write and publish a book, which is really cool that you can get Alice on Amazon. I mean, independent publishing is not the route I would tell everyone to go, but if you're willing to put the work in for it. That was a ridiculously, Rose City Comic Con, telling people about my book and having it sell out that weekend was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. And Funeral Potatoes is being turned into a short film, which is also kind of one of my life goals, was to do a film, write a film of some kind. I'm not going to stop, obviously. I want to keep doing all these things, but that's kind of cool to watch that come true. And I want to make the world a better place, but most of all, I guess my ultimate goal is to be a professional storyteller. And I'm kind of there, but I would like to just be able to make my living off of just storytelling. And that's, I guess, what I'm working towards right now. Whether it be in game writing or novelization or writing for TV or whatnot. Preferably, I'd like to do game writing because I feel like that's because of the whole replayable theater thing. But that's where we're working towards. Ooh. If there was a movie of your life, who would play you and or who would narrate it? I realize we don't look a lot alike, but I've decided based on her personality, Jennifer Lawrence should totally play me. And I think I would want... I would love for Emma Thompson to fucking narrate my life. That would be amazing. Who's your best, closest friend? That would be the one and only Melanie Mosier, who is amazing and fabulous. And if you go onto my YouTube channel, she appears a couple of times. I introduce her like every time. She's actually playing opposite me in Funeral Potatoes, and she's my sister from another mister. She's just like, we're there, and I just adore the crap out of her. And then there's so many people who I just love like so much. But I guess if like, I mean that's the girl that like when shit goes wrong, that's the person I call. And I've been very fortunate to have her in my life, and like she drove up with me after my brother died. She drove with me to Spokane to make sure I got there safely and flew back, even though she was like in the middle of school and directing Hamlet, and she was an amazing person. Like I'm so lucky to have her in my life. And if Melanie, if you're watching this, I love you so dearly. Oh my god. You just come back to Seattle. It's stupid that you live far away. Okay, what's your favorite class race to play in D&D or other tabletop? I love being rogue. I love being a rogue. I'm usually chaotic good, just because that tends to be what I like to play. And honestly, I love me some dwarves a little bit. I love me some dwarves and some halflings. Dwarves and halflings. Short people unite. Rockin' it. What is the most embarrassing thing you have ever done? God, I have no idea, honestly. It's so hard because, again, it's like fear. Once it's happened, it's kind of hard to, like, I get over it, usually. So I really don't have an answer for that. I'm sure there is something, but I just can't think of it. And honestly, like, I would tell you, I don't know, every day of my life. What's the biggest personal change you've ever made? What counts as a personal change? I don't know, moving out on my own, I guess, to Seattle and making the decision to just, like, go do it. I guess. I'm not sure what qualifies as a personal change. What kind of games would you like to write for? Dragon Age, like RPGs, or more creative indie-ish games? Honestly, I love BioWare a lot. That would be kind of a really dream position, is to write for them. But at the same time, I love the indie route. I have so much respect for it. So either or, to be honest. Like, whatever tells the story best. Like, I'm going to be a writer in gaming eventually. Like, I'm going to transition over there eventually. It's just a matter of how I decide to do it, whether I find a company or I start my own. Who knows? It's just gonna be a thing eventually. That's one of my goals, so it's gotta happen. I don't know. biggest turnoff in a man or woman. Arrogance is a big one. Willful ignorance is a huge one. Huge one. Oh, you know what? I guess probably a big one is when people say the word feminist very disdainfully. And I understand that there's a lot of confusion around that word. And honestly, that word probably should be reappropriated, because the meaning behind that word is essentially, hey, regardless of gender or whatnot, we should be treated both like humans. That's it. That's all it is. It's been kind of warped by extremists and more so people opposing the idea. It's not about man-hating. It's not about wanting women to be superior. It's about basic level playing field and saying, hey, you're a human being, I'm a human being, let's both be treated like human beings. And so when someone gets really disdainful about that idea, I kind of go, okay, so why do you think we shouldn't be both treated like humans? Or if I'm talking to a woman, why don't you want to be treated like a human being? I don't know. That's just, it's mental stuff usually. Is the big turn off ones is when personality is oh, hello. Ugh. How would you explain your basic life philosophy? Probably through a bunch of cliches. It's not worth, if it doesn't scare you, it's probably not worth doing. And I don't know. Fear is the stupidest thing in the world sometimes, and if something is worth it, it's worth being scared to do it. Just do what you love, and as long, you know what? I think there's a pagan saying that's basically and if it harm none, do what you will. So I guess that's basically my life philosophy. If you're a Disney fan, did you pick Kingdom Hearts 1.5, and are you getting the new Pokemon XY? I actually stopped playing Kingdom Hearts after Kingdom Hearts 2, and I honestly can't tell you why, because I don't really have a reason behind it. I played through the first two in boom. First one came out, ripped right through it. Second one came out, ripped right through it. I think it was when it started requiring me to have different game systems to complete the story that I just sort of lost interest, because that made me really grumpy. Because I was no longer in my parents' house at that point, so I didn't have the money to buy. Well, it wasn't my money in the first place, but there was no, yeah, I want this. And I've never liked a lot of handheld gaming. Probably more so now, but I was never big on Game Boy or Game Gear and etc. etc. Just because we just didn't usually have it in the house, because my mom was like, well, if you're outside, you should be outside rather than playing on a video game. So yeah, I just kind of I got lost and distracted because that deterred me, and that's a really crappy reason to stop, but that's what happened. And I'm actually not a huge Pokemon fan. I must admit that. It's not my thing. I did occasionally watch the cartoon, but I was never really big on the games. Do you have any major creative inspirations or influences? I do. Shakespeare, definitely a huge one. Ragnar Turnquist, who wrote Longest Journey, was a huge influence on my writing, and Joss Whedon, also huge influence. with some sprinkling of some of Neil Gaiman's work, I'm pretty sure. And honestly, I think everything you take in as an artist inspires you in some way, whether you intend it or not. Crazy eyes. Do you have, that's the same question. Oops, my bad. Which would you choose? True love with a guarantee of a broken heart, or never loved at all, and why? That is so easy. I would always choose the broken heart over never loving. Life is for experiencing, and I feel, I don't know, heartbreak is just kind of a part of life, and I've always assumed that and just sort of known it. And it's just kind of been, you know, what it is. And I would rather have experienced that part, like, you know, I wouldn't want to miss out on that entire part of life just because I didn't want to get hurt. I mean, you're gonna get hurt regardless what you're doing. Even if that relationship ends up working out, you're going to hurt each other because you become vulnerable with a person. And regardless how hard you try, eventually you will hurt each other in some way. But you know what? You get over it. And you grow from that. And blah. Have you seen Beyond Two Souls? I don't believe I have, actually, and I am sorry about that. What is more difficult for you, looking into someone's eyes when you are telling someone how you feel, or looking into someone's eyes when they are telling you how they feel? Probably when I'm telling them how I feel, and that's not. If you've noticed, my eyes tend to go up and around when I'm thinking, and then I try my best to return back to the camera because I feel like that's kind of your guys' eyes. So that's what I try to do when I'm talking to someone, but occasionally I get a little lost, and so I'll focus on a point like over there, and there's really nothing there, and I'm avoiding eye contact, but that way it helps just focus me better, I guess. I have not played Fiasco yet. I know I'm horrible. I've actually had a few invites, but I haven't been able to ever make those parties, so. You can only have one fantasy item in real life. Harry Potter's wand, lightsaber, Captain Mal's gun, or Sonic's screwdriver. That is so easy. Definitely Harry Potter's wand, because then I can go Accio every other thing on that list. What?! I'm not cool, I know. Awkward. Checking my other messages so I can see who asked questions. I think we're done. Actually, I think we are, which is quite perfect. Hey, you don't know that it doesn't exist? It could exist. It could exist. Someone said Accio wouldn't work if the stuff doesn't exist, and you know what? Maybe I will reach into other alternate dimensions because magic. Also, Mal's gun does exist. There are props. I've seen them. Anyway, that seems like a really good place to wrap up, because it looks like I answered all the ones on Tumblr, Twitter, my blog, and looks like you guys are also out, which is perfect because we're wrapping up at about the time I hoped we would. Actually, we went stronger than I thought we were. I was worried that we would like get done in like 12 minutes and they'd just be like, okay. So thank you guys for watching. You're fantastic and lovely. And if you're not following me on my personal channel, it's just Kiri Callaghan on YouTube. Really super easy to find. If you have a Twitch account, please follow me here. I will be broadcasting again Tuesday night around 8 p.m. We'll be going with the second chapter of Longest Journey, or not second chapter, but we'll be going with Longest Journey. I'll give you a recap if you haven't seen the first live stream, so don't worry about jumping in. But the first live stream is up on my YouTube if you want to check that out. Definitely check out our thing up for Extra Life. It's a really amazing thing, guys. Like, helping kids out who just... Children's hospitals just make me sad. Like, I know they're necessary, but like it just kind of like breaks your heart to realize like they're treating these kids with horrible diseases who they're just way too young to deal with that. So raising money for them and just being awesome. And I will also have a 25-hour long live stream, which will probably not be all recorded, because oh my, that would be a lot. But that's going to happen on November 2nd to November 3rd, and I believe that's everything. And of course, be sure to check out Geek and Century Vloggers. And you guys are awesome. Thank you for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. That was the whole point of this live stream. I forgot. Blah. So thank you. That was just on my personal channel. Yay. And it's really cool because when I think I originally posted this, it was... I'm making funny noises. I think it was about like 1,000... we had broken 1,000, it was like 1,016 when I originally wrote this up and wanting to do it. And then I looked at it today and we're at 1,064, and that's just kind of cool to see that giant growth between like Thursday and now. Giant growth. Sorry. But you guys are amazing. Stay awesome. I will see you on Tuesday. Mwah. Now I try to figure